Welcome to Guardians of the Data. I'm your host, Ward Balzerzak. Each episode will explore the passions, expertise, and real world experiences of security leaders who are helping the future of data security and governance. Guardians of the Data is made possible by support from Centra. To learn more about our AI powered data security platform, please visit centra.io. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of Guardians of the Data. My guest today has over a decade of experience in cybersecurity. Pretty sure this guy doesn't sleep. He's a cybersecurity leader, AI governance strategist, risk management expert, and he hosts two different podcasts and is the author of a monthly newsletter called The Convergence. Currently the head of cyber governance and risk and program management in the healthcare industry, Omar Sangurima. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, sir. It's a privilege to be here. You come well recommended by a couple colleagues, and that anything Jason says is the gospel to me. So
I love that. And yeah, Jason Torres was a former guest, so glad to have you on. So Omar, let's get into it. In your professional opinion, what's the biggest data security challenge that organizations are facing?
I'm going to be pretty plain vanilla here. Sorry, I tried to noodle on this for a bit, but it goes back to inventory. If you don't know what your data is or where it lives throughout your organization, then you're doing a kabuki theater dance when it comes to doing any sort of data security. Again, you can have some compensating controls and you can make up for a lot of sins in the data security space. But at the heart of things, you really, truly need to have a good data governance strategy in terms of what's important to your organization data-wise, label the heck out of it. There's a lot of tools that do it out of the box, so there's really not that much of an excuse other than just having the appetite to do it. And then, watching where it goes and putting appropriate controls around that. If you do that, I would imagine you could probably even save some money in the long run, but the people in the process part of that are always where the sticky wickets are.
Just do it. Sounds super simple, right?
Yeah, listen, it's one of those things, and like in the age of AI, right? I think it's going to become even more critical where the acceleration of a bad process is going to hurt a lot more than you may be able to sustain. Those risk tolerances and that risk appetite might not be what you think it is when AI is just really making you do bad things faster because you haven't set those building blocks up front of, again, labeling, monitoring, understanding what is important to your organization data wise, same as regular vanilla asset management, but now with more data.
So let's break it down a little bit because you've seen it, right? You're in the space, you get it, obviously by what you just said, but we keep having this conversation. I've been having this conversation for decades, and I've had folks call me out where it's like, why are we still talking about this word? And I always kind of laugh. It's like, well, hey, if we had this licked, if every organization had it figured out, we wouldn't have to talk about it, right? We could talk about interesting things. So with that being said, break it down a little bit more for the audience. How do you think, what are the first couple steps folks should go through to start understanding that data inventory?
I think one of those things, to kind of back up a quick second with why it's not licked, from what I've seen, it's the curse of the legacy environment. A lot of these, not fly by night things. I don't want to be pejorative, but like stuff that's cloud native or springing up or, those new concerns. Of course, you can kind of do it right the first time and then just, not do it wrong thereafter. I think legacy environments present those unique challenges where you're like, wait a second, if I'm going to spend money, if I have a sack of cash to spend, do I want to spend it on cool new stuff? Or go back and, if you're a Microsoft shop, right, use Purview and do DOP. Like, it's just, it's like eating your vegetables kind of. So I think the first few things truly to understand is to, as with any security program, truly try to get a feeling for what's important to the business. I work in a hospital, so obviously, right, in a shock to nobody, it's going to be PHI. Yeah, it's just protected health information. If I said anything else, right, you could probably do "Boo This Man," right? Little interludes there from right, like boo, get him off the stage. But it's got to be PHI. But in our organization, we're blessed with having a pretty multifaceted organization. I know that I was shocked when I was like, wait a second, my hospital has a medical school too. Oh, great. So it's understanding the core tenets of what makes the business tick and then going, okay, cool. What are the main components data wise of what then makes that engine run? What type of data is going to be the fuel for those gears to go and move things along? I always say that no one, as much as I love to say that I'm on the greatest team in the world, thank the good Lord for making me a New York Yankee. But like, thankfully, I ended up at MSK. But no one goes to MSK and says, I heard they have an amazing cybersecurity program. That's where I'm going to get my cancer treatment. Says absolutely nobody. They go there for other reasons. We're there to support that. So it's understanding the type of data that then makes that amazing and then starting to try to work backwards on how to protect it.
Love that. Love that. Find out what it is, work backwards, protect it. A lot of conversations I have, and I'm sure you've seen this, right? Given your role and what you do, knee-jerk reactions, right? Hey, I've got a gap, or I think I've got a gap. I'm going to go buy a tool, or I'm going to go bring in a third party because clearly, right? Clearly, my issue must be technical, right? Throw something at it. I heard you say, and so does the audience, something a little bit different, which I really want to highlight because it's one of my soapbox arguments. Understand the data, understand the business. So when you do that, is that conversations? Is that a little bit of your own OSINT? Is that a mix, or how are you doing that?
It's definitely a combo, and I think they feed into each other. So I'm not going to chicken and egg it, but whichever end you start with, you want both. If I'm starting with conversations because there's somebody in a business unit that I respect comes out and says, "Hey, I'm trying to do this thing the right way. I have some questions about how we're going to protect. Let's talk about encryption." It may be like one aspect of the plethora of things that you need to do to protect data in your organization. They'll come, I'll go here, right? Have some coffee, have some tea. Let's chat. I love those conversations because I think it's solid gold. I come from a sales background. So, when the customers come to you, like that's nirvana, right? Wait a second. So that's amazing. But I always like to try to back it up with any telemetry I can get my hands on. And if you're running a data program, obviously you have some sort of monitoring or security program, I should say. You have some sort of monitoring. There's amazing tools. There's amazing things agents can do now in terms of giving you insights and bringing together disparate silos of information of data so that you can get then actionable intelligence internal to your own organization. And if you're able to then you can use that to vet folks that come to you with certain issues or support arguments on either side, whether it's your own or the businesses coming to you and saying XYZ. Then you want to and to make business cases to potentially do spend if there is a need for it at all. You definitely want the data. You definitely want the telemetry, like you said, the OSINT, or just pulling logs and telling a story that supports conversations that you then have, or vice versa. The conversations can point you to where you need to look and pay more attention. But you want to combine all that to then go the classic, right, three-pronged attack when you talk to any executives. You go, here's the problem, here's the solution, and here's the ask. And if you can, anything that supports putting those three tent poles there, right, you're gonna have a nice overnight stay versus only having two and then the water gets in and part of the tent, right? Which sucks. So, you know,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Many of those conversations for sure. Although I don't know about you. I usually call it, instead of problem, I call it the opportunity, right? It's a little bit more positive, right?
for sure, absolutely, and it gives you the idea of it's something I can grow into
Right.
versus, oh no, it's something I let happen and I have to go back and kind of clean up my mess. No, it's an opportunity for growth, or it's an area of opportunity. You absolutely wanna definitely frame it that way. You're right. You're right.
So I want to go back to something else you said earlier, which I see this done all the time. So I'm curious your thoughts. So You said, so you mentioned legacy environments, right, being a problem, obviously, and then you also mentioned, kind of building it right the first time, right? Folks that are moving in the cloud or new applications or AI these days, right, have that opportunity. I've seen, I'm sure our audience has seen a lot of organizations simply doing lift, shift, plop, right? Like, hey, you need to get off this legacy system in the data center, whatever. We're going to move it to the cloud. And they literally just do a one for one, no optimization, no actual transformation. Just here we are. Um, what do folks do with that other than don't, right? Other than don't do that. Any thoughts?
It goes from being a digital transformation to just a digital change of clothes, right?
Yeah.
Or a digital haircut. You're still the same knucklehead underneath, whatever haircut you got, right? Haircuts are on the brain. I'm getting one tomorrow. I need one. But as at that point, I think then you're if you present it, I've seen this trick happen successfully in a myriad of organizations. But if you're able to go listen, instead of spending this cash on bringing in another consultancy or bringing in another set of, where the deliverable is going to be a PowerPoint and some bullets and a high five, right? And a smaller and a smaller pocketbook. You can, do for half and maybe give your folks some time to do the analysis. Number one. I think number two, as is the case with a lot of these situations, listen to your people. There are people in your organization that know where the bodies are buried and know that if the lift and shift is just going to, again, put lipstick on the old hog, like it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. They're trying to tell you. I guarantee you, Ward, that there's people out there that know, hey, we shouldn't do this. And this is an opportunity to finally untangle. Oh, no, there it went. And we're just now in the cloud and it's just our problems, but in the cloud. So I think, again, from the PPT perspective, I definitely people in process. It really, even as a technologist, I love tech. That's why I got into this thing. Tech is cool. I think it's the dark arts, but the people and the processes, I think, are really where a lot of the untapped gold can be.
I think it goes back to listening. I completely agree. Although, and again, I'm sure you've seen this a lot of times. A lot of companies are like, and not, I shouldn't make it so big to say a lot of companies. I'm actually going to point this directly at the business groups themselves, right? Like they don't understand. They might not understand all the sins from a technical basis, and they certainly don't understand things like cloud optimization and all of that, what it's like to be cloud native. And they simply say, hey, IT, security, whomever, I need
Mhm.
you to move that from here to there. And oh, by the way, you need to do it by next Thursday. That's okay, right? You could do it.
It's massive, and I think, and again, it goes like you said to listening, and the people and the process part of things. I live my life and it's a bit of like a double-edged sword. Sometimes my team is like, oh man, Omar has walked us into some more work. This guy, what's he doing? Doesn't he know that we're already swamped? But I like being in rooms where I'm the first infosec person to be there, right? Since like the Carter administration. I love like walking in and they're like, wow, you guys are still here. Like, yeah, surprisingly, right? Because we're still operational. So we're still here, right? You're welcome. But then you you're in these rooms and again, and this is tough to do and sometimes it's tough to sell both to my team because again, like I said, I got us more work or even sometimes up the chain where it's like, Omar, why is your calendar just bonkers? Sometimes you have to, again, right, do the deposits in the friend bank. I may be on 3 or 4 of these calls where I'm even questioning like, why am I here? They're talking about amazing stuff at the hospital. Great, but why am I here? And then maybe it's that fifth call where I'll hear something that somebody says about some wacky stuff that's going on or some proposed changes that they're thinking of that they may not have thought to bring InfoSec in on. And Ward, there it is. I saw around the corner. Now I know that they're thinking of maybe all I do is buy us an extra week. Maybe it's 2 Thursdays from now is where they want to do that lifting and shifting and the securing.
Hmm.
But that is where the investment goes into on top of all the maybe the more woo-woo stuff that I believe in, and I think we agree here, of relationship building and, developing that bi-directional trust. I don't discount that, but sometimes, hard-nosed business people will. Cool, let's put that aside. But the practicality of knowing that something's coming around the corner, I pride myself on coming back to my leadership and my team and going, "Hey, y'all heard about XYZ? Can you they're thinking of doing it when? Oh, like next month. What? And then but that bought us time that we didn't have. And then as long as you're able to subtly or smoothly inject yourself in their process, not come in like the police, because then I'm never getting invited back again.
Right.
Right. But come in and go, how can we help you? I'm gonna kill some blockers for you, right? This ticket or that process, or wow, that person in IT was kind of a bum to you the last time you tried this. Don't worry about it. I got him, right? And then like, because they're my homie, then suddenly everyone's a lot friendlier and it's a lot less friction. There you get invited back again, or you get invited on the design and ideation phase. That's how you shift left. You do it through tech, sure, but you do it through relationships far faster.
So what I'm hearing, bottom line, for everybody in your organization that's listening, is put more meetings on your calendar. That's what I'm hearing. You need to be in more meetings.
Somewhere, my wife just dropped a dish. I don't know if you heard that. I know I have
Did
the
not.
noise
Did
canceling here.
not.
No, she just dropped a dish hearing
Oh,
what you just said.
what?
She's like, this is exactly. No, there's oranges are suddenly rolling on my driveway, right? And I'm
Okay.
just, yeah, man, it got real dark here for a second. No.
I mean, kidding aside, though, I actually agree with you. So I was kind of in the same boat. Try to get involved into many things as I can, but it's a delicate balance, right? Because you have obviously there's your day job to actually get things done, move the risk needle, hopefully down, right? That's all of our jobs in cyber. But you can't just go have one-on-one conversations and understand what the heck's going on. You have to be in some of those bigger conversations to at least listen and say, "Oh, shoot, this thing's coming."
Absolutely. And again, provide value and be there as an advisor. That's going back to the sales background. I made many more sales by just listening, addressing problems, not necessarily trying to sell, because that's going to shut people down. I equate that to if I come into a meeting and I'm like, you know what? You're doing that wrong. How dare you set this up? What type of encryption is this? Ugh, right? And spitting like, who wants to work with somebody like that? And I think that the industry does it to itself a little bit sometimes. And I really do. I'm very judgy about even dyed in the wool security folks who like, off of calls or whatever, like start kind of talking down about users.
Mm.
That for me, that's a red flag. And I'm like, well, okay, I know how it is to work with you. And I wonder how secure your organization truly is if this is how like you go about supporting the people that you serve.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So let's go back. So you mentioned, visibility being a key part of understanding what's going on. What should come next after the visibility piece?
I think then I think you have to experiment. I'm a big believer. The researcher in me. I'm sad that I've only published the one thing, right? And I'm even more sad that like it's the cure for insomnia, right? My dissertation can put anyone to sleep. I think because it's pretty terrible. All right, my mom tried to read it twice, and she's like, "Mijo, like this is tough, right?" But I think experimentation. I love whenever I hear a new tool or implementation plan involve we're going to hit monitor mode before, and so maybe it has like a longer tail on the left before we start enforcing. I go, now we're cooking with gasoline. They get it. Let's get after it. And, it involves a little bit more planning. You have to kind of see further around that corner a little bit more. But I love the going at it and with that, let's prove hypotheses. Let's not go in with a presupposed, I've come from the mountain with the tablets and I know how this goes. You may very well have that experience. And now this is crazy, Ward, but I'm getting to that point in my career where I have a little bit more years. I'm like, what happened? You know, I saw a picture of myself like when I first met my wife the other day, and I'm like, who's that child in that photo? That's not me. What happened? But so I have a bit more of that experience, but you still have to come in with the wipeout mindset or the beginner's mind or the beginner's eyes and go, let's experiment and see. I have some tools in my tool belt that I think could maybe solve some problems. But if you go in there with a solution in your mind, you may be right. Great. But then again, you're killing the vibe of, oh, these folks are here as co-creators. So I think obviously, you know, you want to listen, you want to talk, you want to have the, but then also having that of let's try this. Let's try this in a pilot form. Let's think about this. This is how I'm thinking about it. Does this make sense? Oh, we don't know. Let's do let's put it out in a controlled environment and talk about it and then observe and use actual data to then inform the next step. Let's iterate. I don't want to say the A word because I get marched out of certain
Do it.
places.
Don't do it.
No, man. Yeah, I said a nimble approach
Mm.
to implementation. I'll say, see, right? I play enough Dungeons and Dragons where I can come up with enough names for dexterity, right? You know, a dexterous way, right? But I just think if you have more of that mindset, like, and I think we lose that in the enterprise, especially as you scale.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that a number of times, and I want to go a little bit deeper on what you just said because I think it's very, very critical. And I've dealt with a lot of teams. It's usually the executive decree of, I hear you, just do this thing, right? Just prevent the data from leaving, just put DLP in blocking mode, just do this. And totally with you and on board, right? Those of us that have been around the block a time or two, we have seen things, both good and bad. But even I, after doing this for 20 years, I would not go into any organization and say, hey, congratulations, we're going to block all emails with PII tomorrow, right? Because that should never happen, right? So let's go ahead and do it. Nothing bad will come of that.
Tax season hits and everybody wants to shoot you.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think about that, right?
Like get out of the organization. You know, the next day I'm unemployed, right? Because now I blocked the CEO's email for super critical, M&A activity, and now that didn't happen for some reason. But coming back from that, so again, I'm with you. I think a lot of the boots on the ground, I guess we'll say, they often struggle with, here's what I want to do, right? They get the monitor, the whole scientific method, right? Come up with an idea, test it, prove it, come with data driven. But they're dealing with the just do this thing. So in your experience, this is outside of data security now. This is just, 101 in my opinion. How should those folks politely push back and say, I hear you, however, right? Insert your tidbits. What do you think? How should they approach that?
I've gotten some good success with two things. To get away from the hippo, right? The highest paid person in the room issue there. You have to, and one is a short term, one is a long term, right? So I'll go short term first. Ask them the why in a polite way. Like, okay, cool. What's the outcome that you're trying to achieve here? And there's ways that you can do verbal jujitsu, even with a high powered executive, where you can kind of maybe feed the ego a little bit and go, man, that's a brilliant idea. Tell me how you came up with it. Like, school me. This is amazing. And then you can tease out the why of what they're really trying to achieve. Maybe and because we all know this, they're getting a mandate from someone, right? Like, isn't the old saying goes, even the CEOs then has, like board or the customers or their bosses. And then it's a giant circle of everyone just hitting each other in the head with rubber hammers, right? Some days. But like, so you want to say, so what's the mandate? What's the problem you're trying to solve? It very well could be, and you hope in certain organizations, most, I'll say, I'm not going to be cynical, where they may have a good answer, right? DOP may be the thing that we should be doing in this case. Now, how you do it, the context might be off, or the potential vendor that they're just like enamored with because it's their familiar, they had a great solution over here. So tease that out, try to get the why. And then always show that you're on the side of, hey, I'm going to deliver those outcomes. You're coming to me to solve a problem. You want to put something on my desk. Leave it with me, boss. I got it. And then that I think dovetails into, but what you need to join with that is a reputation of being an absolute killer. And what I mean by that is you leave something with me, I get it done. Right. It's just the whole John Wick thing. Like he's a man of sheer freaking will. Right. Whatever you leave on my desk, I have a network. I have, AI now. Like there's many ways that I can supplement, the many gaps in my own knowledge or my own ability. I will find a way to get this thing done for you. Leave it with me. And thank you for letting me know what the bigger picture is so that I can tailor that, killing stroke of whatever we're going to do to hit the outcome, not just, not just do the mandate. You're probably familiar with the concept, right? Commander's intent. Let me know exactly really kind of what like a bit, again, don't have to tell me the whole plan, right? I'm not a general. I'm not trying to, but give me a little bit of that flavor. And then if you have that reputation of anything left with Omar or anything left with you just gets done and doesn't blow things up and doesn't, end up with 3 emails of like, he was a bull in a china shop, right? I'm not, that never happened with me. But like over time, you find the way to finesse that, but still be a hard driver there. Then what that opens up, Ward, is the ability to a couple of times, if needed, push back and go, listen, my reputation, I'm a doer, right? You're the person you come to when you need something done. And you know that I'm on the side of the mission. You know that I'm on the side of your outcomes. I want to make you look good. But you also hopefully pay me to be a little bit blunt. Trust me here. I got to tell you, I don't know about this. You could get schooled there, right? There may be an aspect that you don't understand, right? That they have the visibility across the different parts of the business to inform. And then you're like, oh, boss, I didn't know that. Or they go, oh, wait a second, but you have to have those 2 things there. You have to have that reputation and those receipts. And then you've bought yourself the ability to push back a little bit.
Love that answer. And I like how it got to where one of the places that I hear a lot, when I ask similar questions of other high performers, they're like, oh, well, I have a plan, right? Like I feel like that's the crutch a lot of folks go to. Like if I have a plan, whether it be a full-fledged project plan or a high level, do A, then B, then C, a lot of people say if I have a plan, then I can have a successful conversation and hopefully, to your point, politely push back or understand the acceleration, whatever. But what I heard from you is a plan is not good enough by itself. It's an important aspect, but by itself, it is not really worth a lot.
No, you have to have the receipts and you have to have the ability to show that you can be trusted. Trusted in a broad sense, like trusted to get stuff done, trusted to only push back. I keep the internal rule of, I think it's maybe attributed to like Bezos or AWS where I'll push back twice, right? And because I feel like, I love Socrates growing up, maybe people around me would be like a little too much sometimes, right? This guy, when you argue with him, he won't stop. But truly in a business setting, I'll push back twice. If it's still, Omar, no, we're doing it this way, then you will have, there's no better zealot than a convert, right? That old saying, like, then I'm just going to, and I want it to be known that I'm going to execute and that I'm going to drive. Now, if it goes sideways, because I also don't gloat though. You can't be the person to, especially rubbing an executive's face in it. That's going to be a Pyrrhic victory at best, but they're going to remember that you brought it up. They're also going to remember that you had the grace to not, yell at them about it after. Then the next time when you do push back, potentially you'll have a little bit more traction. But, that takes a little bit of time, obviously.
I think it goes back to calling out risks ahead of time, right? Bringing it back to DLP just because it's a conversation I've had over and over. It's like, yes, boss, we could do that. However, here's, the potential outcome. Not saying it's 100% going to happen, but it's, likelihood. Here's the likelihood of this thing happening, and here's the impact of that thing happening.
Absolutely. Give a range, and then be an advisor.
Absolutely. Well, Omar, it's very apparent you've been doing this. I mean, You haven't been in the industry super long, but you've got a lot of experience under your belt in that time. So, what was your journey? How did you get to where you are today?
I wish I could say like I had a, a grand like Damascus moment or whatever, right? But it was really um career switcher. I wasn't, born with the keyboard in my hand. I envy some of those folks that I see right across the table from me sometimes, and they're like, "Yeah, I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this." I'd be like, "Man, if I'd done that, I'd have like 25, 30 years under my belt. It'd be amazing, right? That'd be phenomenal." But I still, pulled a lot of the tricks that I had from my previous life in sales, out of the bag there. But I was a financial advisor. I think I was like in my mid 20s. Um, you know, I went to business school right after undergrad. And as what is it? Scott Galloway says, right? Business school is where people go to business school because they don't know what they're doing. They just know they don't want to be doing what they are doing at the moment. So that was true for me. I won't say, for anyone else, but and then it's just funny, like it's top of mind because I feel like we were talking about in the green room. I feel like a lot of the stuff from the MBA is stuff I'm using now more so than a lot of other tricks in the bag. And it's life is funny that way. But got the MBA, didn't like what I was doing, financial advising. Why is it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And at that point, my family was like, listen, whatever you pick next, get your feet firmly planted on the ground. Right. There's a saying in Spanish, plantate firmemente, like like whatever you choose, Omar, please. Right. My mom was very nervous at this point. She's like, I have a flighty 25-year-old on my hands. What the heck am I going to do? So, I figured that tech, regardless of the path, would never be boring. And as we both know, oh goodness, right? May you live in interesting times. Sometimes it's too non-boring. It's too interesting sometimes. But started really hitting the books there. From how I grew up, my family was all about, education, education, education. So I ended up starting to get the master's degree in IT, even like maybe a little bit before getting the job in it. Which, I look back and say, now it's helping me, right? 12 years in or past 10 years in. But my wife, if she hears me, she was right. I got ahead of the game a little bit too much there. I kind of preloaded myself a little bit there because after that, um, I got right into a doctorate program too. That's a funny story. My wife didn't know. She was my girlfriend at the time. We had talked about me going for the doctorate in IT, and then she's like, I don't know if you need it, right? Like you're just starting. Like I get where you're coming from, maybe later, right? And then I left the convo with her. It's like sure, and then I started anyway. So no, but get this word. She, God bless her, and I only learned about this. I've been with her 13 years, and that was like maybe 3 or 4 years into our relationship. I only learned this aspect of what she was thinking like last year. She thought I was cheating on her because she's like, suddenly you're not available for weekends. Like your texts are very short. You're somewhere else. And she was like, I go, Chris, really? She's like, bro, you don't understand. Like you disappeared. I was like, well, I was going to school. She's like, now I know that. But the conversation was you weren't doing that. But you know, got my first job via networking. It was through a buddy at jiu-jitsu, he was working at a physical security company that was trying to expand into cybersecurity. Uh, I I didn't know it back then, but it was a great entry point into understanding security as a whole versus just cyber, which again is like helping me now, right? Shout out to the facilities folks at MSK. They're an amazing group of people. And the fact that I can talk BMS systems or like physical access control systems, they're like, this guy, he's cool, right? I'm like, yeah, man. I can, talk about all that stuff. And then I, uh, I went to Baltimore, thinking I was going to get into the NSA. Uh, my father was a member of the Communist Party in Ecuador, and I found that out during the vetting process.
Ooh.
So yeah, yeah, I was like, my funny story there is like, hey, you're the NSA. You can tell I haven't talked to this man in like 5 years. Like, there's no, but please look it up. Um, you know, so that didn't pan out, but I ended up switching more from like physical security and kind of pen testing, vuln scanning into GRC because I was working at a law firm then. And then from there, just been GRC ever since. I came back up after 8 months in Baltimore. I came up, lucked into the role at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and then I've just been a GRC person ever since. Did contract risk here, and then just branched out to like program management, data governance, all that fun stuff.
Growing, growing, and more growing. I love that. I love that. And I actually circled it when you said it earlier. I wanted to come back to it again. So the sales background, where did that come from? Was that in the accounting or?
I always say that, like, I don't want to rag on my dad completely, right? RIP, died during COVID. Because he wouldn't stop being he had a business, like his retirement business was, he ran indoor soccer gyms, like in New York City. Which because apparently I didn't know this until like I learned it through him. You could like rent public school gyms on the weekends to do events and stuff. So he always rented this one public school gym. And he didn't stop doing it during COVID. So he got COVID and died. I mean that's listen, we're a big soccer family, right? Like, you see Messi, you see a couple soccer balls there. So we love us some soccer. He loved it too much, right? Didn't love him back for that winter. RIP there. But so I ragged him a little bit, but for him, he was a negotiator. He looked at a negotiation the way that like some people look at a meal. He loved it. He loved, like, you could just, he'd rub his hands together whenever, like, and again, at like random times, not when like you think a negotiation is going to happen. So it's like, buying and selling, but like for him, life was a negotiation, I swear. And so I saw that. I saw like the fire it gave him, and then he obviously picked up a couple tricks here and there. I took a trip to China and North Korea as a teenager, and I was part of a team. Obviously, I didn't just pick up at 15 and say I want to go to the bad Korea, right? So like this seems cool. It's cheap flights, like, but I remember in China, I eventually became the go-to person for the haggling of the buying and selling of the tourist stuff, right? And understanding like, oh, you say that this is this many yuan, but like I have a couple of American dollars. Like, can we? And so eventually it just came in, and like I don't know if you've ever been overseas there, but like they'll sell you like amazing tapestries at like the dinner table. Like you'll go to a restaurant and then there'll be like an amazing like tiger painted on, like those scrolls sometimes. And so, so like randomly in between eating, be like, Omar, man, I want to get that for my family. I'm like, okay, cool. And so like I got it just, so I got the bug for like selling and kind of bartering, haggling there as a teenager, and then got into sales. My first undergrad degree was actually philosophy, which definitely made my mother cry. So then I went back for business. Back for business. Definitely, my mother was like, what did I do wrong?" Shout out like, again. But I always liken that to like if I hadn't been a coward, maybe that'd be the way I'd go, right? Because I love undergrad. I studied abroad for a little bit. It was amazing, as a TA, right in Vienna. Had no business teaching. Back then, I look back, I'm like, how did they? But I loved it. But then I went back for a business undergrad, and then went to business school, and then did sales, did the financial advising. I caught the certification bug word, I think, when I was I got my Series 7 and my Series 66, I believe. Yeah, for like initial, like sales of, stocks, bonds, all that fun stuff as a financial advisor. And I beat them both on my first try, which I guess back then, like again, I didn't know it was a big deal. I just, what I remember about the process the most actually is like, I was living at home at the time, and my mom used to make these amazing, huge sandwiches while I was studying. And I would just sit at the table for like 8 hours learning about finance. Like I had no business word. I didn't know nothing about that, about the securities industry. And then I'm like, what, a man of sheer will, right? Going back to the John Wick thing, just like, and then with these, triple decker Dagwood sandwiches. I don't know if you remember the Dagwood Bumstead. Oh yeah, right. The comic. And like these bad boys were like, donkey chokers, right? Like the old saying in Britain. And I would just eat and then studied and got them. And just that sense, that dopamine hit there. Even when I made the transition, obviously into tech, right? Tech loves it, some certs. and Omar Omar loves that dopamine there. So yeah, again, growing, just adding stuff there. So
Love it. Quite the background. And I want to ask, you mentioned sirs. I want to ask now, and I'm only asking this because I was just having a conversation last night, actually on LinkedIn, funny enough.
oh boy.
There's a lot of folks trying to either get a new job, right? They're unemployed or what have you, trying to transition,
Hmm.
or they just got out of school and, God bless them. They're trying to get into the industry. It's that old experience versus certs type of, and I'm not asking for you to weigh in and all that, but I am curious. So as you're looking for new team members and hiring, like what are you typically looking for in, we'll say, that more junior type of individual joining your team?
Sure. So for the junior, and it's funny because like I'm hiring kind of a mid now. So so that's top of mind, but like I love that you tease out the junior. And I was about to say, Ward, I thought we were friends, right? If you're gonna hit me with like which experience certs
Yeah, which
or
which one?
degrees,
Give us which one.
I was like, listen, man, I'm gonna have people pop out of my bushes, like whatever answer I give, and just like, give me the Nancy Kerrigan. Like, no, leave me alone. My knees are bad enough as it is. But for juniors, truly, and this just happened. We did hire a junior in my group, but for the A&T side, I'll remember an awareness and training person that had a GitHub. My CISO was like, right, it's a funny story because it was so it had like the way the PDF printed of their resume, um, like didn't have the hyperlink for the GitHub, so we could tell she had one, but then like my CISO and I OSINTed the heck out of finding it. We're like, we have to, like, what's the name? We didn't want to like ask her about it to like make her nervous before the interview. But then, because my CISO is an alien out of SIGINT in the Air Force, he found it pretty quickly. Like, I don't know what they feed those boys in there. It's the boys and girls in there. They're any person, really any person out of the service that goes into cyber, I've seen is an absolute savage. But like, I don't know, man. Mike Zimak, shout out. You're an animal. But it's that. It's more portfolio. It's more show me how you get into things, and also even and that's kind of like that's portfolios are so hot right now, Ward. Right? Like but so I get that, but also even on the interview, show a willingness to say I don't know, or I got, and maybe pivot it to something where here, this is something I did learn. If you're getting interviews for junior roles and they're legitimately junior roles, tell people about them, because like I feel that the industry is being absolutely terrible to its own self, right? It's kind of like biting its own neck at this point. I don't know what we're doing. It's not gonna end well. I know that, but that aside, if you have that willingness to show and go, hey, I don't know that, but I can learn. Here's what I did learn. That seems interesting. Another piece, and this is again like another in the room tip that I'd have for somebody in the junior role. This move actually won me, I think, a callback. I think that like I got deeper into a process than I should have. I'll say that because back when I tried to apply, I was applying to things I had no business applying to. I just said, but one of the ones where I got further was I answered the question, and this is a question I use now. Where do you get your news for cyber? Because for me, and I think that it was explained to me that way, and I internalized it, was like it shows me like are you do you want to be a tourist? Do you want to like get into this? Is this something, or is this something that like you like learning about and hearing about and engaging with in your free time? Again, not work-life balance is important. I'm not saying, but just like again, I'm a soccer fan. I get at the Athletic, right? And like I get news about soccer, that sort of thing, right? Where it shows like, do you have an affinity for it? Do you have kind of a love for the topic? Are you curious about what goes on? That can carry me because, as my current boss says, I love my entire leadership team, right? Not just my CISO, but my director. Hire for fit. You can teach skill. And if somebody has, if I can nerd out with somebody over Darknet Diaries, right? And like go, wow, like, yeah, isn't this dope? Like, this is crazy. well, I can teach you whatever you need to know for the role. And if I can't, then I don't deserve to be on that side of the hiring table.
Great tip for everybody out there, and definitely aligned. I think there's a lot of folks. I mean, there's as heard from yourself, as heard from other guests I've had on there. There is not one right path in the cybersecurity. We all started somewhere, but a big commonality I'm hearing from a lot of the leaders is it's not necessarily I'm going to go get all the certs. It's not necessarily I'm going to get all the degrees. It's not necessarily I'm gonna find a way to get, 5 to 10 years of experience doing something like it. It's a lot of, being inquisitive, right? With, where you get your information. It's, networking, crazy enough, right? Talking to folks and doing all that. And I think the portfolio one's an interesting one that is definitely becoming hotter these days. Um, my 2 cents that I gave to somebody that when they brought up their portfolio was, first, awesome, right? Glad you have it. That's amazing. But make sure you're also showing the real quantifiable outcome of whatever you did. So you created that application, that widget, that thing, big thumbs up, amazing, but what was the so what? Like, you did this project. What was the so what? What actually came out of it that, brings value or brought value to it?
And answering that question is going to be so vital throughout your entire career. I chuckle because that is the phrase that my entire leadership team and myself always presuppose and also slightly dread whenever we're pitching something to the CISO. But because But you gotta think of it, he's getting asked the same thing. That's where I had my empathy for the executive team. He's always there's always a mandate he's answering to or she's answering to or what have you. But it's always, and we'll do this now, we've internalized it among the directorships here. We ask each other and we're bouncing ideas. So what? What's the outcome? What's the juice? How's it gonna move the needle in a place, again, not navel gazy to just the tech, as you said. You built the thing, but what could it potentially do? Even if you talk about, hey, I know that like it would need this aspect that I couldn't build to then deliver business value. Just saying that, especially as a junior ward, I'm intrigued and I want to talk to that person because they get it.
Yeah, and even if you don't hire them, right? They've just made a network connection, and you may, give their name to someone else at that point. That's
100%.
for it. That's where it comes
100%.
from. So I want to give you a chance. You've got 2 different podcasts. Tell us a little bit more about those.
Yeah, it's wild times, it's fun times. As you probably know, you get to talk to cool people. I hope I'm one of them for you. I'm trying my best. I'm gonna tell my wife about this, and she's like, you mentioned North Korea, right? Like that's your thing of like you're unique. But the 2 podcasts, one of them is a cyber metal podcast. I do that with Allison Laderman. Um, I've had great success with folks in the biz, with lawyers transitioning to cyber. 2 people on my team. One of my first mentors when I got to the hospital was a lawyer. Shout out to Ariel there. Learned a lot from her on the contract risk team and like the proto third party risk sort of thing that we were doing back then that I'm building out now. But yeah, lawyers have an amazing and unique perspective on things in cyber that I think needs to be amplified. So I just love, kind of sitting with her, learning from her and talking to cool people with her and hearing like how her angles there. It's also part of a nonprofit that we're starting to try to get off the ground to solve the pipeline issue with, how do you get those 3 to 5 years of experience if you never get the 3 to 5 years of experience chance that suddenly somehow has now become part of junior roles. That's something that like I will probably get into a fist fight with people over. Like that's one of those things that will get me like that wrathy. Is like that's not a junior role. 3 to 5 years of experience is not a junior role. It's not. I'll fight you. But the other one is for the GRC Engineering Club podcast, and that club, AJ Yan and Abdi Muhammad, like is in that come out like same as portfolios. GRC engineering so hot right now. I think it's having its moment. I think it's long time coming. I love what I'll say this. You've seen my LinkedIn have a ton of certs. I took one of the certs that the club put together, which had a practical component of you had to put a portfolio piece together, and it was, in order to automate and streamline the collection of evidence for, to answer auditors' questions there on a GRC program. For me, that was it was a big watershed moment for me. I felt super proud. It was finally GRC is getting its own OSCP, right? I feel like it's like you put hands on and you got hands on keyboard. The club is amazing. I learned from all those folks on the Slack there. And like I said, I get to talk to cool people. I think one of the ones that resonated with a lot of folks was I got to talk to Tom Cornelius, one of the creators of the SCF, the Secure Controls Framework. It's just cool people. I get to sit regardless of what I am on LinkedIn, I don't think they would have, talked to me. It's such a great thing where I can just go can I connect? And, oh, by the way, do you want to be on a podcast? People say yes a lot more than, they don't say yes to this, right? They say yes to I can talk to you on the podcast. And I get to talk to some amazing luminaries and teachers, and then I get to kind of mainline my learning, right? It's a bit of a hack that way, man. And and as you can probably tell, I just like talking to people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Omar, what's the best way for folks to get connected with you? Is that going to be LinkedIn, or what other channels do you have?
100%. It's definitely going to be the LinkedIn, See, I'm getting old, Ward. Goodness, right? Catch me on the Facebooks. But no, it's definitely going to be on LinkedIn. Sometimes there'll be times when it's wacky, and it'll be a bit of a delay for me to get through, but I do spend a good time on Saturday mornings having coffee and making sure that I go through my inbox. I'm open to talking to people for mentorship as well, because one of the promises I made when I was coming in was, if the universe granted me the way in, I was going to help people as much as I could to break in. And now, the stormy seas, right? As we know, the market is bananas. So anything I can do to help out there. If you go in and you're trying to get a master's or a doctoral thesis in IT or cyber, and you need somebody to fill out a survey for you. I remember how crazy it was to get data saturation for mine. So I'm more than happy. You just say what it is and send me the link. I'll do it. I promise you'll get one data point from me, because that was terrifying, right? I remember I got all the way there and it's what? Hold on. There's another stage gate. I got to get 200 people to answer the survey. I'm never graduating. So, I'll always do anything I can to assuage that fear, but LinkedIn's going to be the way, or, pop into, say hi at the GRC Engineering Club podcast. That's the probably Slack. On that Slack, I'm pretty active as well. So yeah, come say hi.
Excellent. Well, Omar, thank you so much for joining today. It's been a great episode.
Ward, it was an absolute pleasure. I hope I'm as good as Jason Torres's was. But if I was better, please let him know.
Oh, I will definitely let each one of you know. Different story for each, right? We got to keep the competition going.
Of course, but no, thanks, and I'm grateful to him for connecting us. And anything you need down the road, just ping.
Amazing. And hey, big thank you to the audience who's listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode today and learned something. Please tell others in your network to follow and listen. Been another exciting episode of Guardians of the Data. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Guardians of the Data. Thanks for tuning in. For show notes and more, visit guardiansofthedata.show. Guardians of the Data is made possible by support from Centro. To see how we help organizations discover and classify all of their data accurately and automatically while quickly achieving petabyte-scale data protection without the fuss, please visit centro.io. Catch you next time.